Are you struggling with breastfeeding? I am going to share with you all the ways that you can get the breastfeeding help that you need now. I will also let you know who may not be a good source for reliable breastfeeding information and support. Hey mama, welcome to my channel, Breastfeeding Confidential, where I talk about all things breastfeeding. My name is Andrea Tran. I'm a registered nurse and a lactation consultant, an IBCLC, and I've been helping moms and babies breastfeed for over 26 years, and I want to help you too. If you are a breastfeeding mom and want breastfeeding information, tips, and support, then I invite you to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of my helpful videos. It seems like when you have a baby, everyone is an expert who wants to give you advice. Am I right? And that's even more true when you're breastfeeding. There are different kinds of breastfeeding support, different types of people who can help you, and if you get the right breastfeeding information and advice, then it can turn things around. And if you get the wrong information and advice, it can mean a fast end to breastfeeding. Let's talk first about who can help you. At the top of the list is other moms. Mother-to-mother support is essential when you're a breastfeeding mom. They can give you so much practical advice. And is there anything better than another mom who you can share your struggles with? One who's been there, who understands? Moms know what worked for them and their baby. And each mom-baby couplet is unique. That's one of the reasons why what worked great for your friend may not be the best advice for you, or the reason that it didn't work out for you. Fortunately, there is a wealth of professionals who have helped lots of different moms and who you can benefit from all that varied experience. I have helped thousands of moms, and they have taught me so much. I am grateful to each and every mom who has helped me learn more about breastfeeding. I'm a lactation consultant, an IBCLC, that stands for International Board Certified Lactation Consultant. To get my certification, I had to have breastfeeding-focused education, I had to help moms for thousands of hours, and then I had to sit for a certification exam that took all day long. I have to retake that exam every 10 years, and I'm going to sit for it again soon for the third time. I also have to get every 5 years, when I'm not taking the exam, continuing education for breastfeeding to maintain my certification. Now, there are lots of different certifications for lactation consultants, counselors, educators. I feel like an IBCLC has a really solid knowledge base to help breastfeeding moms, and one with experience is even better. Now, we all have personalities that come with our experience and our credentials, so if you met with a lactation consultant and didn't feel like it was helpful or just didn't mesh with her, please consider giving somebody else a try, because you really can get the help that you need from a lactation consultant. Breastfeeding support groups are another great way to get breastfeeding support. You can find them in hospitals, parenting centers, breastfeeding centers, community centers may have them. There are some private practice lactation consultants who hold breastfeeding support groups. There are mother-to-mother support groups. When you investigate whether or not you should go to a specific breastfeeding support group, you want to find out who facilitates it, what kind of assistance they provide, or is it just a place for moms to gather and share things? Is there a scale if you want to weigh your baby? Is there a fee for the group? Where and when are the meetings held? Is there any hands-on help available, or is it just a place where you can ask questions, or a place to get together with other moms, which is so important. Different groups offer different things, and they meet different needs. They're all valuable. Another person who might offer to help you with breastfeeding is a doula. You want to find out what kind of training she has. Was it just a few hours as part of her doula education, or is she independently certified as a lactation consultant, separate from her doula training? What kinds of things does she tell you that she can help you with? What kinds of things does she tell you that she would refer you to a lactation consultant for? If she's just gotten basic breastfeeding education, I would ask her what percentage of her clients does she refer out when they're having breastfeeding problems. Doulas can provide great assistance with getting you started with breastfeeding, position, latch, but in some cases they can get in over their heads, so you just want to be clear about what kind of help she can provide you with. Facebook groups are another place where moms seek breastfeeding support. You want to find out who administrates the group, what their experience and credentials are. I have a Facebook group, Breastfeeding Confidential, and since I'm a lactation consultant, I can ensure that all the information that is being shared is accurate, or I can point it out if it's not, and step in and provide that accurate information that can be so essential at times. Now, another place that a lot of people get breastfeeding information is from blogs. And I think every mommy blogger has a breastfeeding section, and moms are so valuable in terms of sharing tips and support. But when you're reading a blog, you want to find out what the credentials and experience of the person giving the advice is. And depending on the advice, that can be helpful, or you might want to look elsewhere if you have a more complicated situation that you're trying to find answers for. And just because a blog is dedicated to breastfeeding like mine is, it doesn't necessarily mean that the person writing it has the experience and credentials to cover all the different topics that they address. I do invite you to check out my blog, Breastfeeding Confidential. I'll leave a link to it below. Now, if you're experiencing any of these following things, I urge you to reach out for some kind of breastfeeding help. If you are dreading feedings, if you are crying when your baby latches because it's so painful, if you are constantly worrying that your baby is not getting enough from breastfeeding, if you think that your baby is eating too frequently or not frequently enough, if you think you should be getting more when you pump, if you're considering supplementing with formula, if you are starting to wonder if it would just be easier to just pump and bottle feed, also known as exclusively pumping, if you're planning to go back to work or school, or for whatever reason are going to be regularly separated from your baby, if you feel like breastfeeding should be easier at this point, if you are just confused by all the conflicting information you're hearing. Now, in the following situations, I urge you to connect with a lactation consultant. If you're experiencing any nipple trauma, cracks, bleeding, bruises, blisters, if you're having nipple discomfort that has gone on longer than what's expected in the early days, if you're experiencing unrelieved engorgement, if you're worried about your milk supply, if you have an overabundant milk supply and it's causing discomfort for you or your baby, if your baby just won't stay latched throughout the feeding, if your baby is making smacking or clicking noises during feeding, if you're dealing with a case of thrush, if you're using a nipple shield, if you're triple feeding, that's when you're breastfeeding, pumping, and supplementing. Now, sometimes moms get started on that routine in the hospital and they go home and they don't know how long they need to do it for. Or they might meet with a lactation consultant who gets them started but doesn't give them guidance about how long she needs to do it. That's the kind of routine that can really be crazy making. If you're breastfeeding multiples, if you're dealing with repeated clogged ducts, if you're dealing with a case of mastitis, if your baby is refusing to breastfeed, if your baby is not gaining weight adequately, if your baby's inefficient at the breast, either feedings are taking a long time, longer than an hour, or if you feel the need to frequently supplement after breastfeeding, whether that be your pumped milk or formula, if you think your baby might have a tongue tie, or if you just have a lot of questions and want some one-on-one undivided attention. A lactation consultant can help you with all these things. But how do you find a lactation consultant? Well, your hospital where you gave birth or birth center may have lactation services, or they may have names of lactation consultants that they trust and refer to. If you have friends who worked with a lactation consultant that they raved about and said was really helpful, get that name. You could ask your healthcare provider, your obstetrician or pediatrician, midwife, physician's assistant, nurse practitioner, whoever you work with for your healthcare. They should have some names that they can refer you to. In the United States, you can check the United States Lactation Consultant Association website. I'll leave a link to that below in the description. Internationally, you can check the International Lactation Consultant Association, and I'll leave a link to that. Now, I offer lactation consults online, and while there are limitations, I have found that most issues can be addressed effectively through an online consult. Now, what should you expect at a lactation consult? You should be asked about your medical history, your pregnancy history, how the labor and birth went, as well as what's going on with breastfeeding. Feedings, frequency, duration, supplementing, pumping, what your baby's diapers are like. You want to make sure that you talk about what your goals for the consult are. Depending on what the problem is, in an in-person lactation consult, she may want to check your baby's suck and see what his tongue feels like and how he's using it. During most lactation consultations, the lactation consultant will want to observe a feeding. She may weigh your baby before and after feeding to determine how much milk your baby is transferring at the breast. She should give you a detailed list of recommendations after the consult that will address your problem, and she should let you know what kind of follow-up she'll provide. Some issues will require you to meet with a lactation consultant more than once. Now, fees for a lactation consultation will depend on where you live. Insurance may cover it. Now, I want to talk about one more group of people that may be giving you advice and information about breastfeeding, and that's your healthcare team. Your obstetrician, midwife, nurse practitioner, physician's assistant, pediatrician, and the nurses on their staff. Now, when you choose a healthcare provider for your child, I encourage you to discuss how they plan to help you with your plans to breastfeed. Ask them how they learn about breastfeeding. The reality is that doctors and nurses and midwives do not get a lot of breastfeeding specific education during their schooling. If they want to become more knowledgeable about breastfeeding, they have to seek out that education independently. So if you are struggling with breastfeeding, there are many ways that you can get help. And the sooner that you reach out to someone who is qualified to help you, the faster you will get back on the right track to having a positive breastfeeding experience. If this video was helpful, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, bye-bye, Mama.